Have you ever tried to start a new habit full of motivation, only to watch it crumble within a couple of weeks? You're not alone, meet Raphael. For him, every attempt at self-improvement followed the same tragic pattern. A new meditation habit would last a week. A new reading routine, maybe 3 pages. It was always the same. Monday, he was a superhero of discipline. By Wednesday, the excuses started whispering. By Friday, he completely surrendered. Sunday was reserved for guilt and the empty promise of, I'll start again next week. He tried everything: habit tracking apps, rewarding himself for small wins, even getting an accountability partner. Nothing stuck. He felt like a failure, constantly battling his own lack of willpower. But what Raphael didn't know was that he wasn't fighting his willpower. He was fighting the very structure of his own brain. He was stuck in this loop until he stumbled upon a secret, a principle that has allowed Zen monks to maintain their practice without a single gap for centuries. The secret is a simple but profound concept called gyoji, which means continuous practice without gaps. In Zen temples, this isn't just a guideline. It's the law of their existence. Since the year 1200, every single morning at exactly 3:30 a.m., a bell rings. And every single morning, for over 800 years, the monks rise. There's no hitting the snooze button. There's no negotiation. There's no just 5 more minutes. Why is this so effective? It's because our brains sort commitments into 2 distinct categories: reversible and irreversible. A reversible commitment is negotiable. It's a promise you can talk yourself out of. I'll go to the gym after work can easily become, I'm too tired, I'll go tomorrow. But an irreversible commitment becomes automatic. When a Zen monk takes their vows, they aren't just making a promise. They are fundamentally changing their identity. A Harvard neuroscientist discovered that when we publicly declare a new behavior, our primitive brain interprets any failure to follow through as a direct threat to our survival. In ancient tribes, losing status or being ostracized was a death sentence. By making a public declaration, you trigger this deep-seated survival instinct. Failure is no longer an option. It becomes a danger. Inspired by this, Raphael decided to adopt the monk's principle. He took a piece of paper and wrote a declaration, not a goal. I'm a person who meditates for 20 minutes every day at 5 o'clock a.m. For 90 consecutive days. This wasn't a wish. It was a statement of fact, a new identity. He then signed it, took a picture, and posted it online. He told his friends, his family, everyone he knew. As you can imagine, some people laughed. They mocked his sudden commitment, remembering all his past failures. But for Raphael, this was perfect. Every single doubter, every skeptic became fuel for his fire. Their disbelief reinforced his determination. But the battle wasn't just mental. The public declaration silenced the part of his brain that loved to negotiate, but it couldn't silence his biology. Each morning when that alarm went off, his body screamed in protest. The war within had just begun. Raphael knew the first enemy he had to defeat was the most destructive question we can ask ourselves. When will I do it? This single question invites endless debate and procrastination, so he made a choice. He set his practice for 5 a.m., not because he was a morning person, he absolutely was not. He chose 5 o'clock a.m. for a strategic reason. The world was silent. There were no emails pinging, no social media notifications, no one else awake to distract him. At 5 a.m., there were no excuses. The first week was pure torture. Every fiber of his being resisted. Waking up felt like climbing a mountain. But then, in the second week, something strange started to happen. He began to wake up naturally just moments before his alarm was set to go off. On day 14, a milestone, he found himself standing up and getting ready before his conscious mind had even fully formed a thought. He had conquered the when, but his tricky mind had already found a new loophole. He was keeping the hour, but he wasn't keeping the activity. One morning he'd meditate, the next he'd read a book, the day after he'd do a quick workout. His mind had found a way to reintroduce choice, and with choice came negotiation. Variety is the enemy of consistency. It feels good, it feels productive, but every option you give yourself is another negotiation, another chance to fail. Raphael realized he had to eliminate all choice from his morning routine. He created a simple, non-negotiable sequence: 20 push-ups, 10 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of reading. The same 3 activities in the same order for the same duration, every single day. This was his personal ongoing 90-day period of identical, intensive practice. As you might expect, his mind did not like this one bit. Week 3 was a full-on rebellion. His brain screamed for novelty, for an easier option, for anything different. But Raphael held firm. By week 4, the resistance started to crack. Then, something magical happened in week 6. He was halfway through his push-ups one morning when he suddenly realized he had started without even thinking about it. An MIT researcher explains this phenomenon perfectly. After enough repetition, the task moved from your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that makes conscious decisions, to your basal ganglia, the part that controls habits. The action becomes automatic, like breathing or walking. He wasn't choosing to do it anymore, it was simply happening. But life is never a straight line. Inevitably, disruptions came. On day 35, he got the flu. He was feverish, weak, and every part of him wanted to stay in bed. On day 40, he had to take a last-minute business trip, completely throwing his environment into chaos. In the past, either one of these events would have been a death blow to his progress. It would have been the perfect excuse to stop, and that single gap would have been enough to let his old, inconsistent self creep back in. But this time was different. He now understood a critical truth. Practice does not require perfection, but it absolutely requires continuity. The chain must not be broken. So, what did he do? At the airport, waiting for his flight, he found an empty bathroom stall and did his push-ups. Stuck in traffic in an Uber, he closed his eyes and meditated for 10 minutes. On the plane, he pulled out his book and read. The practice was imperfect. It was messy. It was far from ideal, but it was unbroken. He learned that a single gap is a victory for your old self. It's an invitation for regression. By refusing to break the chain, no matter how small the link, he kept his new identity alive. Most people's consistency shatters the moment an unexpected obstacle appears. Why? Because they have no plan? They're forced to make a decision in a moment of stress or weakness, and that's a battle you will almost always lose. Raphael realized he needed to stop reacting and start preparing. He sat down and created pre-solutions for every conceivable scenario that could derail him. If it was raining outside and he couldn't do his workout in the yard, he would do push-ups in the garage. If he had guests staying over, he would do a quiet workout in the bathroom before they woke up. If he had a hangover from a night out, he would do just 2 push-ups, 1 minute of meditation, and read 1 page. The goal wasn't a perfect workout. The goal was to not break the chain. Travel? He already had his plan for airports, cars, and hotels. He created a simple formula. When X happens, I do Y. There was no thought required, no debate, no willpower needed. A Yale psychologist discovered that this strategy of pre-deciding removes decision fatigue. It preserves your precious willpower for the actual execution of the task, instead of wasting it on the internal debate of whether you should do it at all. By day 70, Raphael's practice was so automatic that sometimes he'd finish his routine without even remembering starting it. It had become a part of who he was. On day 90, Raphael completed his Ango. He had successfully practiced for 90 consecutive days without a single gap. But the number of days wasn't the real victory. The real transformation was internal. He was no longer a person asterisk trying asterisk to be consistent. He asterisk was asterisk consistency. He had fundamentally changed his identity. Friends started to comment on his discipline. They'd say things like, "Your self-control is kind of scary," or "I don't know how you do it." For Raphael, this was the ultimate validation. When your consistency starts to make other people uncomfortable, that's when you know you've finally reached the right level. You've broken free from the norm of excuses and inconsistency that traps so many. Over those 90 days, he hadn't just built a habit. He had systematically killed his old, unreliable, inconsistent self and allowed a new, unbreakable identity to emerge from the ashes. He proved that consistency isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, one unbroken day at a time. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more.